Hi, I'm Bev McCullough of Flamingo Toes, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to show you how to make up my Sunshine Daisies quilt pattern. This is a new quilt pattern for me. It's a really fun one to sew together. It's perfect for beginners or expert stitches. It can be a fast or slow sew, whatever you desire, and it just has a lot of options for customizing, so it's fun. I made it up in my brand new basic Dainty Daisy. It's really cute little basic. It has a very small daisy on it and then some little scattered pin dots, so it works perfectly for the focus of your quilts or as the background of your quilts or anything else. I used it as the focus of this quilt, so I think it adds just a lot of fun and color and pop to the pattern. So let's get started sewing. So this is my Sunshine and Daisies pattern. It is made up of a really large block, and the block looks a little bit like a flower or a sun, whatever you choose, and you can highlight that with different color fabrics as well. So it has a quick, simple design, so let's get started sewing. It is made up of, you cut your squares, and you can find all the instructions for cutting in the pattern, but you'll cut your print squares or your basic squares, whatever you would like, and you want to kind of have a fun variance in colors so that you get a wide variety of images in your fabric and in your block. So you're going to cut your print squares, and then you'll have your background squares. And what we're going to do first with our background squares is we're going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner on those. And I'm just going to, my pen, I'm sorry, I don't know how to work this pen. Okay. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner on each of my background squares. We're going to use 3 for the perimeter blocks on our flower block. So I'm just going to draw those quick lines, and that's easy and fast and fun. And you're going to place one on the corner of your block like this with the line aligned like this. We're going to have one on 3 corners, but I'm going to go ahead and sew this first one for you to show you. And we're sewing on the marked line. So just go ahead and stitch that. Now, this is a great block for chain piecing. You do not have to do this one at a time. You can line up all your blocks and sew all of your corners in a row and then just cut them apart. So I've sewn on that marked line, and now what I'm going to do is take it over to my little cutting mat, and I'm going to trim off 1/4 inch away. And I'm going to open up my little rotary cutter here. They work so much better when they're open. And then you're going to press away that block, that little corner. And you're going to repeat that step for 2 more sides on your cute little block. So we're just going to go ahead and sew those. And you want them aligned like this to make the petal of your flowers. So you always want your diagonal lines kind of pointing away from that corner, kind of like that. So I'm going to sew on those marked lines, and we're going to just stitch them down. So unlike a half square triangle, with the stitch and flip method, we're actually sewing on the marked line, which makes it kind of easy to follow along with. Don't have to guess. So it just takes just 2 seconds to make this little fast block, and then you can start picking your other prints for your petals. So we're going to go ahead, so we're going to pretend that I've done this a lot of times to make up these petals. So I've sewn on these 2 marked lines, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim again. I like to keep a very small little mat at my cutting table on top of my big cutting mat for projects like this where you're doing a lot of trimming at once, because we stand in one place and we tend to trim in one place over and over, and that puts a lot of wear on our big cutting mats, and it makes it so that they wear out so much faster. So if you keep little mats like this, they're really handy for your stitch and flip blocks and your half square triangles. To just, that takes the wear, and it costs a whole lot less than your big cutting mat. So it's just a good idea to keep those little mats and little rulers on hand for something like that. So I've pressed away the corners of my block, and so I've made one of the petals, and it looks like this. And I'm going to show you a few of the other petals that I've made for this block. I like to make really colorful petals. So these are all different colored ones, and they all have just 3 sides of the corners sewn. So these are all the petals of our cute little block. For the center of the block, you're going to do the exact same method that I just used, but you're going to go ahead and sew the stitch and flip corners on all 4 sides. And that gives you that pretty focused center of your block. So to go ahead and fill out the backgrounds, I'm going to sew a small background piece on the left and right sides of this block. We're going to do that real quick. And you can also chain piece these. Go ahead and do your stitch and flips on all your centers and then chain piece them all at once. And it really speeds up the assembly of your quilt. Like that. I'm going to speed up this machine just the tiniest bit for fun. So I've sewn one side, and you don't need to press in between. And then now I'm going to sew this other background piece on. And this will fill out and make the center of the quilt a little bit larger. So for when I was picking my prints for this, I made my petals really multicolored, and I kept all the centers of my flowers the same because I like the way that it ties them all together, and it gives them a really cohesive look with all the centers the same. Now, this is absolutely your quilt, so you can make it any way that you would like. It's just an idea when you're picking your prints to decide how you want to lay out what goes where. You can also use the center of your quilt for fussy cutting. This little petal would be really cute if you have a print that has fun little images. You could put those in the center, and that would really highlight those. So we're going to continue making our background piece, adding background strips to that. So I've got longer pieces, and I'm going to sew those to the top and bottom edges, just like we did with the sides. And again, I'm a big advocate of chain piecing. Go ahead and piece these all at once. And there's not very many centers in the quilt, so it goes really quickly. So one of my favorite things about this quilt is the customizable options. So because we have such a giant block, you can really have fun with how you lay this quilt out. You can make it in multiples. You can make it just like it's shown, you know, with I have 3 across and 4 down, or you can leave off. So if you make it, say, 9 by 9, you could just put 1 block in the center and have background fabric or a really cute panel on each side. So you can really play with the layout and the design of the quilt that way. So I have sewn the top and bottom edges of my background fabric here, and I'm going to go ahead and press those now. And then I can show you how we're gonna, we got to do the corners next. I almost forgot the corners. Those are so important. Okay, we're kind of assembling our little sections here. So the corners of the blocks have a little bit of black fabric that I used on my sample to make those corners pop. And I did use all the same print or all the same color on all the corners because I really wanted it to highlight each of the blocks. So I used the exact same method. This is a little bit bigger piece of fabric. And again, all those measurements are in the pattern. And you cut that in the print fabric, and so you just do the exact same method that we did before. I sewed on my marked line, and now I'm going to trim and press, and that gives us the little corner pieces of the block. Now I'm going to show you how fun and easy it is to assemble this. So to put the block together, all you need to do is kind of place your center piece in, and each of your corner pieces goes with the black print towards the corners, like that. And then you can start filling in the petals. And these are really, really fun and easy to fill in. You're going to take the point of the petal that doesn't have a little background piece on it, and you're going to point it away from its fellow petal here. So let me kind of show you here. There'll be 2 petals on each side of the flower, and then these little points point away from each other. And you kind of repeat that all the way around the block to have a really sweet little flower block. And you can play with these colors, kind of keep, different colors away from each other, or, maybe you want them all the same color. And we have multiples here. That's okay. These are, yes, I did these kind of backwards. So then it kind of, well, I did this upside down. So I don't know if we want to, I did these, when I'm working upside down, it's, I got everything backwards. So for assembly, all you have to do is sew your petals together, and then you go ahead and sew all of your pieces together, and I'm going to show you how cute and fun the block looks once it's all assembled. It's really fast to put together, and I love fast quilt, don't you? So this is what the assembled block looks like. And you can turn it whichever way as you're assembling them, lay them all out on the floor and decide, okay, maybe I want to make sure that my greens and grays are together, or that kind of thing. You can flip this block any direction because of the layout of it, and when you're playing with it, you can make sure you can have it laid out with the colors exactly where you want it. So this is the finished block, and you can see how fast and easy it is. And I have another alternative for you in this pattern. I have put together in the instructions also a table runner, or you could use it as a bed runner or any kind of runner. And this uses the exact same block, and I have one on each end of the runner here. I'm going to show you what it looks like all laid out like that. But the center of the runner is the similar flower block, but it is 1/4 the size. And again, all the instructions are in there. So for the center of the runner, I have made 4 of the small blocks. You use all the same methods. You use the little stitch and flips on each corner, and then you do your corner accents and your centerpiece just the same way, and then you sew those 4 units together for the center. So you have all the instructions for that in the pattern, and you can use that in your quilt if you want to. You could make your whole quilt up with these smaller versions, or you could put it in the center or something like that. So I wanted to give you lots of options with this pattern for ways to play with the block and how to use it all together. So I hope you enjoy making up this Sunshine and Daisies pattern. It's really fun, and I'd love to see your versions. You can use the hashtag Sunshine and Daisies Quilt and tag me if you do make anything with it. And just thanks so much for tuning in.